welcome back to my channel. My name is Tati, and today we're going to be going through my immediate TBR. Usually I would have done a February TBR, but I knew that this month was going to be very light on reading because my parents were visiting me for a week, and usually I read throughout the day and in the evening, but I knew I would be entertaining and visiting with them, so I wasn't expecting much from February. That said, they did just leave today, so I am feeling very motivated to get back into my reading habits and get a few books read in February. Here are the physical books on my TBR that I just picked up from the library. I do have some other books that we're going to go through. Those include some books that I have on hold from the Libby app. It also includes some books I have ARCs for from Netgalley. So we will go through all of those. Let's go ahead and start with the physical TBR, but this is honestly in no particular order. It's not like I'm going to read these four first and then get into the other ones. So yeah, let's just get into it. What is pretty exciting about this TBR too is I don't actually know what a lot of these books are about. So we're going to figure it out together. And I really picked a lot of these books out based on vibes, as well as books that I've had on my TBR for so long that I pretty much forgot why I added them, but I knew I wanted to read them someday. So here we are. I also tried to prioritize Black authors in honor of Black History Month. So I believe, if I remember correctly, every book on the physical TBR here is by a Black author, and a few of the authors from Libby are Black authors. The first book on my physical TBR is An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon. I have had this on my TBR for quite a long time. I think I have taken it off and put it back on a couple times, as I am prone to do, and honestly, I don't remember what this is about. I think I added it because it has ghosts in the title, and I love everything paranormal, but I think this is more of a sci-fi. So it says, Aster has little to offer folks in the way of rebuttal when they call her ogre and freak. She's used to the names. She only wishes there was more truth to them. If she were truly a monster, she'd be powerful enough to tear down the walls around her until nothing remains of her world. Aster lives in the low-deck slums of the HSS Matilda, a space vessel organized much like the antebellum South. Okay, wow. I did not realize this had those themes. I have been reading a lot of antebellum themed literature lately, and so this fits right in, and I'm already very intrigued. So this is nothing like what I thought it was when I added this to my TBR years ago, however long that was. Again, I thought it was paranormal, but this is perfect. I have just recently read When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen, which was about an antebellum themed wedding at a plantation. I also just finished Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark, about KKK resistance fighting with a supernatural twist. I am just also so excited. Like, this sounds so good. That is An Unkindness of Ghosts by Rivers Solomon. If you have read this, let me know what you think. I'm really excited to read this now that I know what it is about. Okay, the next book on my physical TBR from the library is The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I have previously tried to read Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler, and I couldn't really get into it because of it felt like themes of pedophilia to me, like these people who are really sexualizing this girl in a little girl's body, even though she's, aged so much mentally, she's still in this little child's body, if I remember correctly, and it's sexualized, and it just grossed me out. But you know what? With what we are dealing with in the real world right now, maybe I should go back and read that, because that is very close to home in our current, I don't even want to call it a political landscape, it's just the world landscape right now, where all these people with lots of money are pedophiles. Yeah, so this will be my first Octavia E. Butler book. If I remember correctly, this is a dystopian novel. So let's read a little bit more about what it is, because I honestly don't know. Parable of the Sower is the Butlerian odyssey of one woman who is twice as feeling in a world that has become doubly dehumanized. The time is 2025. When was this published? I didn't realize this was published in 1993, and it takes place in 2025, which really explains why everyone was talking about this book last year. Totally over my head. Okay, so the time is 2025. The place is California, where small walled communities must protect themselves from hordes of desperate scavengers and roaming bands of people addicted to a drug that activates an orgasmic desire to burn, rape, and murder. Yikes, this one's going to be heavy, isn't it? This will be the first time I hopefully finish a novel by Octavia E. Butler. All right, the next book on my physical TBR from the library is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I have also had this book on my TBR for a really long time. When I realized that this book is by a Black author, I was like, well, this will scratch that paranormal itch with witches. Also fulfill my goal of prioritizing Black authors for Black History Month. So what is this about? In the lands of Bethel, where the prophet's word is law, Emmanuel Moore's very existence is blasphemy. Her mother's union with an outsider of a different race cast her once proud family into disgrace. So Emmanuel does her best to worship the Father, follow holy protocol, and lead a life of submission, devotion, and absolute conformity, like all the other women in the settlement. I feel like we're gonna get some vengeance type action here from this witch who discovers her powers under the oppression of religion. I hope that's what this is about, because that sounds great to me. That is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. Okay, the next book on my physical TBR is The Reformatory, and I didn't do my due diligence in looking up name pronunciations. So this is by Tananarive Due. Tananarive, actually don't know. I will make sure I know how to pronounce this when I do a reading wrap up. But I have seen this book get great reviews, and also just saw Mochi on TikTok. Shout out Mochi. Read this and loved it. So I'm really looking forward to this, because so far Mochi's recommendations are fire. This takes place in 1950, Gracetown, Florida. 12-year-old Robbie Stevens Jr. is sentenced to 6 months at the Gracetown School for Boys for kicking the son of the largest landowner in town in defense of his older sister, Gloria. So begins Robbie's journey further into the terrors of the Jim Crow South and the very real horror of the school they call the Reformatory. Robbie has a talent for seeing ghosts or haunts, but what was once a comfort to him after the loss of his mother has become a window into the truth of what happens at the Reformatory. I saw this described as the history is the horror. It's not so much the ghosts that are the scary part, but it's what happened to the ghosts. So I've heard that this is super gripping, page turning, which I didn't really get with When the Reckoning Comes. These feel really similar. Like, the setting isn't the same, but I'm getting similar vibes. And if this can do that even better, then that will be great, because When the Reckoning Comes was like a 3-star book for me. I was a little disappointed, so maybe this is a 5-star. You never know. That's the joy of reading. We're always chasing that 5-star feeling. That wraps up the 4 books I have from the library. Let's go ahead and talk about the arcs that I currently have. Okay, the books I have from Netgalley are Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher, Shy Girl by Mia Ballard, and Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall. I want to start with Shy Girl because I didn't look into the book before I requested it from Netgalley. All I did was read the synopsis and look at the cover. But after I got approved for it, I went to go add it to my TBR on Goodreads, and I saw a bunch of really disheartening stuff about the book. So this book is now infamous for allegedly being an AI assisted written book. Obviously, I do not support that. I think art should be made by humans. And the reason for that is because it's taking away from the people who spend their time learning a craft and developing a craft. I don't want to pay people to plug something into AI when I could do that myself. I want to pay people for writing a novel that I love. And then the other controversy with Shy Girl by Mia Ballard is she stole the cover art. She has admitted that she pulled it on Pinterest and then cropped it and edited it to be something similar but different. And of course, like, how could you go on Pinterest and think that any art on there wasn't made by somebody who is due credit for that? So anyways, big drama there, but I've heard that they have since reimbursed the artist for their work. So yeah, this is getting traditionally published in, I want to say it's in, is it April? Let's see, April 7th, 2026. This was a learning lesson on my end to make sure I do more due diligence on a book before I request it. That is a good learning lesson for me, and hopefully something that people watching can take away as well. So that's Shy Girl by Mia Ballard. The other book I mentioned is Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall. I have read another book by this author. It was boyfriend material back when I was trying to read more romance and realized I am not a romance girly. What did I rate that? I rated that 3 stars. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall, which is due to be published March 10th, 2026. So I need to jump on that one sooner than later. It says it's Alexis Hall's science fiction debut, and I do love a good sci-fi. It says Earth is a ruin, and the scattered remnants of humanity scavenge what they can from the stars under the watchful auspices of a grab bag of collectives, corporations, and churches, which are all that remains of what we once called society. I'm going to admit, I have no idea what this is about, and I'm struggling to understand the synopsis, but I'm here for it. I love the cover art. I didn't hate the romance I read by this author, so that's fun. I'm excited. Okay, the last arc that I currently have on Netgalley, this one's pretty exciting. This is Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher. I feel like most people know T. Kingfisher at this point, and I have read quite a few books by them. I've read the Sworn Soldier trilogy, which includes What Moves the Dead, What Feasts at Night, and What Stalks the Deep. I have also read Thornhedge, A House with Good Bones, and The Twisted Ones. I think that's everything. I don't think any of the books I've read so far by this author have been 5 stars, but there are a few 4 stars in there. So this seems to be another relatively short book by T. Kingfisher. Yeah, it's less than 300 pages. And it says something darker than the devil stalks the North Carolina woods in Wolfworm. Wolfworm must be a town. And Sonia Wilson is a scientific illustrator without work, prospects, or hope. When the reclusive Dr. Halder, I cannot read right now, offers her a position illustrating his vast collection of insects, Sonia jumps at the chance to move to his North Carolina manor house and put her talents to use. But soon enough, she finds that there are darker things at work than the Carolina wood. What happened to her predecessor, Halder's wife? Why are animals acting so strangely? And what is behind the peculiar local whispers about blood thieves? Keeps going, but that sounds fun and creepy, and T. Kingfisher has a way of making things interesting without being too long. That wraps up oh no, it doesn't have one more arc. I'm currently reading it, which is why it's not on this list. It is The Last Contract of Isako by Fonda Lee. It is about Ismis Isako. She is a long knives woman, A-tier contractor. It's very sci-fi. You really need to get into the book and the lore to understand it. I think it was described by Fonda Lee as cyberpunk ninjas. It's like Gone Girl meets Andy Weir's Artemis. I don't know. It's very unique. Lots of sci-fi. It's kind of long. It's close to 600 pages. It is very heavy world building mystery sci-fi. That's like the best way to describe it. That sounds interesting. You should read it. I will do a full review of it later, but that is coming out May 2026. I'm supposed to wait until April to like actually review it, and so I'll have to hold off on my review of that, but I am reading it this month. That wraps up the arcs I have from Netgalley, let's wrap up with the books, the audiobooks I have on hold on the Libby app. So the first book is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This book came out in 2019, and I remember it being really popular. I think it was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick or something like that. And it's basically about this woman. She is Black and she is a babysitter for a white family, and she's called one night to look after the child late because of an emergency in the household. So she takes the child out to like a grocery store, it's maybe midnight or something like that, and she gets stopped by security and accused of kidnapping because she is a Black woman with a white baby. And it just turns into this racist turmoil, and then the white family is trying to make up for it. Meanwhile, the woman is, meeting people and dating, but you're just seeing how race is becoming such a big deal for the white people in her life, and she's just trying to live her life. So yeah, I am excited to review that and finish that up. I also have The Women Could Fly by Megan Giddings. It's reminiscent of the works of Margaret Atwood, Shirley Jackson, and Octavia Butler. I mean, what more could you ask for? So this is a dystopian novel. I believe it involves witches and all sorts of things, and it's just one of those books that I don't really want to know more about before I get into it, but I have that as an audiobook on Libby as well. Okay, the last book on my immediate TBR, which is also an audiobook on Libby, is Colored Television by Danzy Senna. Sounds like our main character meets a hot young producer who is creating diverse content for a streaming network, and he seems excited to work with a real writer, which is her. She can create what he envisions as the greatest biracial comedy to ever hit the small screen. Things finally seem to be going right for Jane until they go terribly wrong. So I don't fully know what to expect from this book. I mean, I have an idea of what the plot is, but I don't know how this is going to twist and turn and where it's going to go, but I'm excited to read that as well. That is my immediate TBR, spanning from my physical books from the library, my holds on Libby, and my arcs from Netgalley. But yeah, I'm really excited to read a few of these books that have been on my TBR for so long. And of course, if you have read any of these or have any commentary on anything I've discussed, like the Shy Girl controversy and drama, please let me know in the comments. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching my videos. I can happily say and celebrate that I recently hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, which may not seem like a lot, but I am so grateful for all of you who tune into my videos. So once again, thank you. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.